Here's something most people do with AI. They ask it a question, then they get an answer, then move on. And that's fine, but it's leaving the most useful part on the table. Let me explain. What if instead of using AI to answer one question, you used it to take one idea and pull dozens of usable directions out of it? Ranked, formatted, and mapped out in about 10 to 15 minutes. And I'm going to show you a 4-step prompt chain that does exactly that. I'm going to use content creation as the example because it's the easiest to see visually, but by step 2, you'll already be thinking about how this applies to your actual job or whatever it might be that you're doing, from pitching projects, planning campaigns, proposals, figuring out what angle to lead with in a presentation. It's the same chain, it's just going to be different input, right? So let's get into it. So here's the pattern most people follow, and this applies whether you're a creator, a marketer, a consultant, or whatever. You get an idea. You run with the first angle that comes to mind. You produce one thing. Then you start over from scratch like the idea never really existed. At least I know that's what I do many times. But the idea definitely has more in it. You just didn't unpack it. And I know this is true because I used to do this constantly with content. I come up with a solid concept, make one video out of it, move on. But I've watched people in different fields do the exact same thing. A product manager with one good insight who writes one internal doc and files it. A consultant with a strong framework who pitches it one way and drops it when it doesn't land the first time. The idea wasn't the problem. The process was. This chain is a different process. Same 4 steps, whether you're building a content calendar or a go-to-the-market strategy. I'm going to show you both, right? So let's start with step 1, which is the core extraction, right? And it's the one that unlocks everything else. So here's the prompt. Take this single idea and then paste your idea. What I would suggest is that you either dictate it in there or you already have it ready and just paste it in there. And then you expand it in as many distinct angles as possible. Include educational, contrarian, story-based, list, myth-busting, future trend, and beginner versus advanced directions. Rank by the relevance and potential for my niche and number them, right? One prompt that you paste in with your idea and it comes back with more angles than you'll kind of really know what to do with, and they're all going to be ranked. So let me actually show you an example. Here's what I got when I ran this with one of my own ideas last week. I use AI prompting for creators as the input, all right? So what you're looking for here are the ones that make you think, oh, that's actually interesting. And that reaction, that's a good signal. I circled 8. That's more than enough to really move on to the next step. And the thing to notice is the variety. You've got educational angles sitting next to contrarian ones, beginner content next to advanced breakdowns. That's what one prompt does when you give it the right structure, right? So now we're moving on to step 2, and this is where it stops being a list and starts becoming actual content. So here's the next prompt that you'll use in this sequence. For each of the top angles above, generate a platform-specific hook, YouTube title, LinkedIn opener, X thread starter, IG carousel headline, and one visual idea for each. Same angles, 4 platform formats each. You're not doing extra work. You're watching the same idea, just shapeshift more or less, right? Now, this is the output. Look at angle 3. One angle, 4 completely different hooks, depending on the platform. The LinkedIn opener is conversational. The YouTube title has the number in front. The X thread starts with a statement designed to get a reply, right? You didn't come up with any of that from scratch. You just had to pick the best ones. And that's the difference between prompting and good prompting, right? So now we move on to step 3, and this is the one that looks the most boring from the outside, but is actually one of the most useful. So here's that prompt. Build a 30-day content calendar assigning the top angles to days and formats. Flag any repurposing overlaps. Add 1 CTA per post. And this is what comes back. So 30 days, your best angles assigned to specific days, specific formats with repurposing flags so you're not accidentally posting the same idea twice in the same week in 2 different places. And I'll be real, the first time I saw this output, I thought, I'm never starting from a blank calendar again. That's not me overselling this. That's just what a 30-day calendar looks like when you didn't have to build it by hand. Coming up with content sometimes can be very, very excruciating and can actually cause a lot of procrastination. So this definitely really helps. And I don't even have to use all 30 days. If I'm only going to be putting out a handful of content each week, I have more than enough ideas for the entire month and possibly even moving into the next several weeks and all that kind of stuff. So the next thing is that each post is going to have a CTA baked right in. And you can change them, obviously, but the structure is there. Any of this stuff you can actually change for yourself, right? So that's what I really want you to understand. And now this is the final step. Step 4 is the one that most people skip, and it's actually the most important one long term. So here's that prompt, and I want you to pay attention to this. From the full set of angles and calendar, extract my top 3 reusable angle patterns and save them as my permanent idea multiplier rule set. And what you're doing here is pulling the pattern out of the output, right? And this is what came back with mine. 3 rules, things like contrarian hooks perform on LinkedIn. Educational hooks perform on YouTube for this niche. And every time you run this chain, your rule set gets a little more specific. You're not just getting content, you're building a system that gets smarter every time you actually use it. And that's the compounding part of this. The calendar is useful now. The rule set is useful for the next 12 months. And to make that point, this isn't just for creators. Here's the same chain run on a product launch brief. Same 4 prompts the input was, we're launching a new pricing tier. What came out was a stack of distinct angles for how to talk about it. Internal communications, sales deck, customer email, social announcement, objection handling, one idea, many directions. You're not doing a ton of extra work. You're doing one chain and picking the best 3. So here's the comparison. Before, there's a handful of weak angles, one format, no calendar, and you're going to start over again tomorrow, right? But after, now you have more angles than you need. They're ranked. They're platform-specific hooks, a 30-day calendar, a reusable rule set. And this only takes about 10 to 15 minutes to actually do. And why this actually works isn't magic. It's 3 things. You're forcing structured thinking instead of free-form brainstorming. You're depositing reusable rules you'd never bother writing down otherwise. And you're removing decision fatigue from the publishing side entirely. And that last one matters more than people think. The reason most creators stall isn't lack of ideas. It's the daily decision of what to do with the ideas that we actually have. This takes that decision off your plate for an entire month. So here's the full template, all 4 prompts with placeholders ready to copy. I'll put it in here. You can screenshot it, but I will also put a link in the description on Notion so that you can grab them right from there. So here's what I want you to do. Grab one idea you've got sitting somewhere, a video concept, a project pitch, a campaign angle you haven't committed to yet. Run step 1 only, the core extraction prompt. Then come back and tell me in the comments how many angles you actually got and what you're going to be using it for. I'm genuinely curious whether people are using this for content or for something actually completely different, because that actually tells me what to try to build next and teach and actually learn for myself, which is exactly what I do. I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody that plays around with this stuff a lot, and I come back with the information that I find is useful. So I hope that you go ahead and use it in these sequences. And if you like these types of sequences and things like that, please let me know. Let me know what type of sequence you'd like me to create for you or like to take a look at. And I'll do that. And feel free to like this video if it helped. And if you like what I'm doing here, I'd love for you to subscribe. Other than that, this is Craig, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.